Welcome back to News Now, where we have more global coverage for you. Pope Francis continuing his Poland visit today with an incident causing major concern and making the rounds on social media. It comes ahead of his scheduled visit to Auschwitz tomorrow, the Holocaust death camp where at least 1.1 million people were killed. The i24 News desk has more on the visit.
Pope Francis continues his historic visit to Poland, but a minor incident caused the hearts of thousands of his followers to miss a beat. During his visit to an open altar to celebrate Poland's holiest shrine, Pope Francis missed a step and stumbled. However, officials in the Catholic Church said 79-year-old Francis is well.
Despite the fact that at the beginning of the Mass the Holy Father tripped on a step, which he might have not noticed when he closed his eyes, he is in good shape because he didn't even mention in one sentence that he needs anything, and the sermon, which spontaneously lasted pretty long, proves that the Holy Father is strong.
Thousands of thrilled pilgrims came to watch the pontiff as he toured the city of Krakow and prayed before the iconic Black Madonna.
I think that we have wished for this kind of preacher, this kind of pope for many years. And I think that with what he says, he totally reaches the youth, but not only, all the people who listen. Praise God for a man like this.
On his first day, Pope Francis was welcomed by the Polish president. Francis urged the Polish government, who's known for its hawkish approach towards migrants, to help and ease the suffering of the refugees.
At the same time, new forms of exchange and cooperation need to be developed at the international level in order to resolve the conflicts and wars that force so many people to leave their homes and their native lands.
Pope Francis is also scheduled to visit the Auschwitz extermination camp, where hundreds of thousands of Jews were killed during the Holocaust. This may be another crucial test for the pontiff, who will have to confront the dark history of Poland and the Catholic Church in one of the biggest tragedies in history.
We move to France, where investigators have formally identified the second jihadist who attacked a church and killed a priest. 19-year-old Abdelmalik Petitjean, who was known to authorities after having tried to travel to Syria. i24 News' Danny Swibel with more on the French investigation.
Prosecutors in France have identified the second man involved in the killing of a Catholic priest, Father Jacques Hamel, in a Normandy church on Tuesday as 19-year-old Abdelmalik Petitjean. Security services say a file had been opened on Petitjean for suspected links to Islamic militants and concerns he had been radicalized. He and the other attacker, Adel Kermiche, who appeared in a video pledging allegiance to the Islamic State, were shot dead by police outside the church.
Peace be upon you. Thank God, and peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad. Peace be upon us, who pledged alliance to the Emir of believers, Islamic State leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi al-Husseini. God is a witness to what I'm saying. Thank God. God is the greatest.
Hundreds of people, including French President François Hollande and several politicians, attended a mass in tribute of Father Jacques Hamel.
It was a very beautiful tribute. The Cardinal's sermon was very moving. He spoke of hope. He also spoke of forgiveness towards the authors of this attack, and honestly, it was very rich.
The political presence is intolerable because it's completely for the elections. It's very, well, maybe it's normal, but at the same time, it's totally exaggerated. The police can't do anything. We want to show that we're brave and that we're not afraid.
The church attack is the latest in a string of deadly assaults in Western Europe, including the mass killing in the French Riviera city of Nice on Bastille Day. Several French organizations have come forward saying they will no longer publish photographs or names of terrorists in order to avoid what Le Monde says bestows, quote, posthumous glorification to the killers.
And staying in the region but turning to economic news, the European Union deciding against sanctioning Spain and Portugal for failing to reach deficit targets. Let's take a look.
A financial reprieve for Spain and Portugal. The European Commission cancelled stiff penalties imposed on the two countries for breaching EU deficit limits.
Taking into account past efforts of Spain and Portugal, the current challenging environment and arguments laid out in the recent request, the College agreed today to propose the cancellation of the fines for both countries.
According to EU regulations, governments cannot run budget deficits above 3% of GDP. Portugal had aimed to cut its deficit below that target last year, but the gap turned out to be 4.4%. Spain aimed to lower its deficit below the target, but is likely to remain above 3% moving into 2017, according to the Commission forecasts.
We preferred caution, respect for democratic deadlines and growth consolidation. We opt for 2 extra years, which brings us to 2018.
The EU decision to repeal its penalties comes amid a growing trend of isolationism within the embattled union. With growing anger about open migration policies and following the Brexit referendum, there is concern that the 28-nation bloc is capitulating to Spain and Portugal for fear of exacerbating anti-European sentiment. Whatever the reason, Madrid and Lisbon will celebrate not having to concede the sum of 0.2% of their respective GDPs to the European Union.
And now for Economy Now. And joining us to discuss this is i24 News economy anchor Natalie Ehrlich. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So, Natalie, Facebook hits a record high. What's the story?
Indeed. So Facebook surprised Wall Street estimates by a whopping number. They posted earnings of 97 cents per share, $6.44 billion in revenue. Keep in mind that Wall Street was expecting earnings to come in at 82 cents per share and $6 billion in revenue. So that's a significant jump to the upside.
And what's explaining this?
Well, it's basically their ad business. They're doing very well in that front, and that's why they've been able to really rack in the revenue. And it also really highlights the fact that this business certainly has managed to monetize itself, which has been the question for years.
Now, we've also spoken about Turkey, which at the moment is undergoing a lot of changes with the turmoil really hitting hard at the economy.
Indeed, it's really taking a bite out of the touristic sector. We're seeing that year on year from June this month, the monthly drop was the highest on record, according to the Ministry of Tourism in Istanbul. They've seen a 44% plunge in the number of tourists. And keep in mind, 88% plunge in Russian tourists. That's largely in part because of the acrimony that emerged following the downed Russian jet just earlier in the year.
So this is data coming from this past year and not only from everything that's happened since the attempted coup.
Absolutely. This is not even accounting for the coup that just happened. This is everything leading up towards June.
Natalie Ehrlich, thank you very much for joining us for this economy. Moving now to health news. At least 4 cases of the Zika virus unrelated to travel have been recorded in Florida, raising the possibility of a local transmission in the continental United States. More in this next report.
Mosquitoes in the U.S. may be transmitting the Zika virus, with at least 4 cases unrelated to travel documented in Florida. Some 1,400 infections have been reported in the U.S., but all were previously linked to trips abroad. This latest fear comes just 1 week after New York City reported its first case of a baby born with microcephaly, which has been linked to the Zika virus.
We do have a number of women who are pregnant. Microcephaly is not a condition that is readily diagnosed during pregnancy. This, as Dr. Bassett indicated, this is sadly not unexpected, and we expect that there will be more cases as the season continues.
For most people, Zika causes only mild illness, but it is dangerous for pregnant women and is believed to cause microcephaly, a disease marked by small head size that can lead to severe developmental problems in babies. According to the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, there have now been 12 confirmed cases of babies born with microcephaly in the United States, and more than 400 pregnant women in the continental U.S. have evidence of Zika infection.
Meanwhile, Belgian scientists have developed a novel method of transforming urine into water. That's right, a team of scientists at Ghent University say they have created a machine that turns urine into drinkable water and fertilizer using solar energy, a technique which could be applied in rural areas and developing countries. And we're joined by Sébastien Dirissé, a researcher at the University of Ghent. Good evening.
Good evening.
And thank you for joining us. So tell us, how did this idea come about?
Yeah, so basically we were thinking of what we could do for developing countries, because this is some kind of a special part of what Ghent University does, is look at how developing countries can be helped. And basically we took a look at some of the basic problems, which are fertilizer needs, agricultural problems, and so on. But on the other hand, also diseases that are transferred through urine or feces. And basically, we just had the idea of how can we recover the fertilizer and water content of urine and make it available for people in developing countries.
So where is this technique being applied?
So at the moment, we did a trial test at the Ghent Festival, which is a local festival here, where we treated 1,000 liters of urine. And everything proved to be very successful. We produced quite a bit of potable water. And now the idea is to go a little bit further, maybe do some trial tests at the facility in South Africa to see basically whether we can apply this technique there as well and how people will receive it as well.
Sebastian Derizet from Ghent University, I want to wish you the best of luck and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Moving to some more scientific news, as US and UK experts solve a decades-old mystery surrounding a spot on Jupiter. Scientists discovering Jupiter's Great Red Spot is in fact a hurricane 3 times bigger than Earth that is blasting the planet's upper atmosphere with heat.
It was a question that stumped scientists. How does the gas giant planet Jupiter have such high temperatures being so far from the sun? But now US and UK experts have discovered Jupiter's Great Red Spot is in fact a hurricane 3 times bigger than Earth that is blasting the planet's upper atmosphere with heat. Using an infrared telescope in Hawaii, the team found temperatures as high as 1,500 degrees Celsius, temperatures that are hundreds of degrees hotter than anywhere else on the planet.
Jupiter is basically the harshest region in the entire solar system. It is a planet on steroids. Everything about it is extreme.
The study suggests the hurricane was created by sound waves of thunder literally breaking in the upper reaches of the atmosphere. Dr. Tom Stollard from the University of Leicester said the discovery was, quote, a major step forward in a 20-30-year odyssey. The Juno spacecraft launched on August 5, 2011 from Cape Canaveral and has spent nearly 5 years traveling through space after Juno's one-shot attempt to slip into Jupiter's atmosphere and the $1 billion project at stake. It began its 20-month-long dance around the solar system's largest planet to learn how and where it formed. Jupiter's origin have affected the development and position of the rest of the planets, including Earth, and its fortuitous location conducive to the evolution of life.
Now remember the ice bucket challenge that took over the web? Well, apparently the funds that came from that viral video are now leading to a major ALS breakthrough. And to tell us more about this, we're joined by Kalanit Balas in New York. Thanks for joining us this hour.
Thanks for having me.
So Kalanit, if you can first break down the research for us, what is the breakthrough?
Well, we're very excited to share this news. What has happened is we've discovered a new genetic mutation in a gene called NEK1 or NEK1. And that happened completely because of the Ice Bucket Challenge and the funds that everyone contributed to that effort.
But we know that it also only affects 3% of the cases. Why is this still such a great success?
It's a great success because that's one of several genes that we know. We know that there are over 25 to 30 genes that affect people with ALS, but this is now in the top 5 of those genes. So it has a higher proportion or a higher commonality, which means that we'll be able to start looking at why and targeting therapies.
And what do you see moving forward?
Well, what I see moving forward is probably 2 things, right? Researchers around the globe are very excited about this. It was a global collaboration. There were 80 researchers in 11 countries, so I'm sure they'll continue forward to try to figure out what matters with this genetic mutation when it breaks down DNA repair. How can we fix that problem and then hopefully start developing new treatments? We see more of this coming. I'm sure that we're going to see a lot more genetic pieces that are put together for us to understand what's happening with ALS.
Absolutely. Kalanit Balas, I want to thank you for joining us and the best of luck.
Thank you.
Described now as one of the most dangerous games of 2016, Pokemon Go has caused numerous injuries and even death. Ezra Taylor has more on the game that is dangerously stealing people's attention.
A few days ago, it was the most popular game of 2016. Now it's described as the most dangerous. Pokemon Go has caused minor mishaps, injuries, and even deaths. The app on mobile devices uses augmented reality and GPS to show Pokemon creatures for the player to catch. But in order to catch them all, players wander around on a virtual map by walking around in real life, which is why there have been so many incidents. In the southern Israeli city of Ashdod, Asaf Ben-Guzi, aged 17, was rushed to the emergency room after nearly drowning. He was pulled from the water by his brother. In Wyoming, a woman found a dead body floating in a river. In San Francisco, a brother and sister had their phones stolen while playing the game. In San Diego, 2 men were injured after falling off a cliff. In Japan, players have been found wandering into busy highways while absorbed in the game. While the app warns players to pay attention to their surroundings, it seems some are not heeding the advice.
And now a major discovery from the ancient Egyptian era was found at Tel Hazor in northern Israel. The historic discovery is considered the largest part of an Egyptian statue found in the region and dates back to the 2nd millennium BC. Ori Shapira takes us back in time.
Excavators in Tel Hazor, northern Israel, have got a leg up in the research. A major discovery from the ancient Egyptian era was found at the site. The historic find, made of limestone, is considered a part of the largest Egyptian statue found so far in the region from the 2nd millennium BC. Only the lower part of the statue survived, representing feet of an Egyptian official sealed on a square with an Egyptian hieroglyphic script.
It most probably came to Hazor as one, by the way, of 18 other fragments of Egyptian statues that were sent probably as presents by the Egyptian king to the king of Hazor at the time, signifying that Hazor was the most important city at that period in southern Canaan.
3 years ago, another magnificent artifact depicting a part of an ancient Egyptian king sphinx was unveiled at the same site. Researchers say these findings are associated with the New Kingdom era of ancient Egypt of the 19th century BC, a time when Hazor did not yet exist. This gives the discoveries an even greater significance since they were Egyptian antiquities at the time they were sent to Hazor. Tel Hazor is considered one of the largest and most significant sites of biblical era. At its peak, it had a population of 20,000 people, a metropolis of ancient times.
We know from the biblical record that Hazor was the head of all those kingdoms. It ruled probably all this land. The king of Hazor ruled this land.
However, the late Iron Age saw the downfall of Hazor. One incident remains a mystery in the region until today, the destruction of Hazor during the biblical era, which is presented in 2 different versions in the Bible, Joshua and the book of Judges.
We just know that in the book of Joshua, that Joshua conquered the city, and it says very clearly that the city was burned down. But also in the book of Judges, we find the narrative that Deborah and Barak came to conquer the city, and the Lord commanded them to go to the Mount Tabor, and all the Israelites, all the Canaanites came there with Sisera as their leader to try to defeat the Israelites, but they couldn't.
The research in the area has been going for more than 100 years, but only part of it was excavated. Experts believe more answers to the many mysteries can be discovered in the future. They may shed more light on the Canaanite, Israelite, and even ancient Egyptian cultures.
And we're going to stay in Israel, but go a little bit forward in time to the world of beverages. Budweiser, Stella, Hoegaarden, depending on your country and your preference, you probably know these beers, but you're likely less familiar with Dictator Beer. Daniel Campos and David Yakin met with the controversial new Israeli brand, aiming to have Saddam Hussein quench your thirst.
Italy's Vini Lunardelli Wine Company won worldwide fame when it released its historical line in 1995 and placed Hitler and Mussolini on their wine bottles. Earlier this month, a new bizarre Israeli beer brand known as the Dictator launched its new line that is aiming at a similar provocative campaign. Orientalist, or is it a parody on Orientalism? It is not clear. Bottles bearing the image of a V for Vendetta Guy Fawkes masked character, Russian communist leader Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, and even the late Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein.
We don't really praise dictators. We want to propose a new kind of dictatorship, which is right, tasty, and worthy to the most enlightened democracy in the Middle East, as we like to call ourselves.
Young entrepreneur Yotam Baraz founded the brand in 2013. The Dictator's bottles used to be less explicit, showing only dark silhouettes. The new controversial line is designed by artist Alon Breyer, and it was released this July. The Dictator is being produced in Kiryat Gat's Haaretz brewery, home to other craft beer brands. In Israel, two major breweries are known for having the majority of control of the beer market. Both companies enjoy the benefit of huge marketing budgets to broadcast highly produced commercials on Prime TV. Despite having smaller budgets, over the past decade, the giants are competing with numerous microbreweries. Beer Bazaar in Tel Aviv is a bar specializing in craft beer. Here you'll find an enormous variety of local and international beers.
We were looking for something that is different from the other brands in the country, something that will call the attention of the eyes on the shelf, more insolent. We are not embarrassed about this, and I promise you that what is to come is even more extreme. This is our mainstream. People like it. They stare, they ask, is this Saddam? We answer, we don't know, and we go on.
Controversial campaigns can be a key strategy to popularizing a small beer brand, as Shapiro Beer discovered. In 2011, they hired director Vanya Heyman to create an online series of 10-second violent beer bottle throwing commercials. In Israel, campaigns can be edgy, but still there are boundaries the craft beer industry is not ready to cross.
Still, the line we are not ready to cross has to do with Israel and the Jewish people. There is this famous German dictator who we won't be putting on our bottles. It's still too fresh and too connected to the Jewish people, no matter how much noise it may make.
And business will always go before politics.
It's also possible that we won't be putting any living individuals on our bottles, especially leaders from our country. We don't want problems.
Gaddafi, the Shah, Idi Amin, we will have to wait and see who is next, and if censorship will come along.
When politics meets alcohol, which brings us now to art. He is one of the most famous artists in the world, known for his criticism of China and its stifling of political dissidents. And now we can get a peek into Ai Weiwei's time in a Chinese prison thanks to a captivating new exhibition in Spain. i24 News' Maya Margit takes a look.
A fascinating glimpse into the Chinese prison system. 5 years ago, Ai Weiwei, one of the world's most high-profile artists and a vocal critic of Beijing, spent 81 days in a Chinese jail. And now his harrowing experience is on display as part of a 6-part installation titled Sacred at the cathedral in the Spanish city of Cuenca.
Ai Weiwei is the artist of our century. He's really the artist that manages to break all the limits of art and transform it into a form of worldwide communication. The real success of Ai Weiwei's work is to be able to transmit it to everyone and to have a global sense of art as no one has ever done, but also as art as a message, and he is trying to draw attention to issues of human rights.
6 large iron boxes containing fiberglass model recreations of the artist's cell show his prison routine. Viewers are forced to look through a peephole to catch a glimpse of the ominous scenes inside. The exhibition is part of a series of events taking place across Spain to mark the 400th anniversary of the death of celebrated Spanish writer Miguel de Cervantes, who wrote Don Quixote.
The key word of this exhibition is freedom. Freedom is what unifies through centuries two figures like Miguel de Cervantes and Ai Weiwei, each one with their own art. This is the unifying thread, the loss of freedom and its recovery.
I has criticized his country's human rights record on several occasions, leading to a backlash from Chinese authorities. In 2011, Beijing confiscated his passport, returning it only in July last year.
Because of the war.
And that wraps up our hour's news coverage. For anything else and to join the conversation, you can find us online, i24news.tv, and you can follow us on social media. That's Facebook and Twitter. We'll be back here Sunday night with News Now. Thank you for watching and being here with us.